Welcome back to another episode of A Gift from Adversity. My name is Juri Love. I'm your host. Thank you so much for tuning in again. Today, we are recording episode 27. I'm very grateful to have many guests who are willing to share their adversity, tools, and a gift that came from the adversity. Today, I have a wonderful guest from Vancouver, Canada. And before that, I would like to introduce my book. It's called A Gift from Adversity, the same title as my show. And this book came out in 2020. This is subtitled Overcoming Sexual Abuse, Domestic Violence, Bullying, and Homelessness. I have experienced all of this growing up in Japan. And this book is available on Amazon. And after I published my book, I had a lot of people told me of their child sex abuse, domestic violence, which I had no idea they had. And I had people contacted me from many places, and especially people who are going through crisis. I've gotten calls and emails from it. I felt very compelled after getting these feedbacks, after I shared my story in an adversity, that I wanted to create a platform where people can specifically talk about adversity and tools that they use to overcome and a gift that came from it. So today, Hibby Bartlett is going to share her story, and I'm very excited to have her. Hi, Hibby. Thank you so much for being on A Gift from Adversity tonight.
Oh, no, thank you, Juri. It's my pleasure. And you've got the perfect last name.
Thank you. So, Hibby, can you please tell our audience your name and what you do?
My name is Hibby Bartlett. I am the founder of the World Love Bank. It is an app, a health and wellness app that allows people to share and exchange and as well save love as their most valuable asset.
So, how can people find more about World Love Bank? Do you have a website and then the app that people can download? Where?
Absolutely. So theworldlovebank.com, you can go onto the website and find out all about how the World Love Bank started and our goals, as well as right away you can download the app on Google Play or in the App Store. So you just click the link and go ahead and download it, and you can start saving love as your most precious asset. And yeah, learn more about it as well. You can follow us on Instagram at hashtag World Love Bank.
So, download from Google Play and then it's an app.
It's an app store. Yeah.
Can you tell us what does this app do?
Absolutely. So the app is created, it's called the World Love Bank. So as a bank, it allows you to create messages for those you love. And when you receive them, you can save them into your savings account. So it keeps loving messages all bundled in one safe place. It's banked because it is the most valuable thing we have, as well as it has a joint account where all the users can go in and listen to the words "I love you" from all the different other users around the world who have deposited it. So it's anonymous. So you could listen to a global compilation of "I love you, I love you, I love you." And every "I love you" is an individual person committing their unconditional love to you. So you can listen to the global one. And as we build it up, you'll get the different countries. So people will hear it from Australia with people with accents from Australia or from the US and from all around the world. And there's that. And there's a checking account where you check in your emotions, and then you can actually exchange other anonymous audios to bank for words of encouragement for other people.
That is incredible. So, World Love Bank
One word.
app. So, one word. Okay, got it. Now, When people, do you know how many people are using it? Do you have any statistics?
Oh, right now we just launched on February 14th, so Valentine's Day. So we have about 80 people downloaded it, but we've had some beta testing beforehand. So we have compilations already in the bank for people to enjoy. So we're just
And
really just fresh starting it.
how are you spreading the word out about the World Love Bank app?
Well, I have been doing podcasts and doing Facebook ads, and I'm in a lot of different Facebook groups. So I believe that um, there's different demographics, but I believe everyone is excited about it and wants to know how to, how that they could, save love. So we're sharing it through podcasts. We're sharing it through Facebook ads, Facebook groups, and Instagram. And we're just hoping to create partnerships with different groups as well that we support. So we support women in recovery. We support mental health. We did a big event for Mental Health Day, and we're hoping to continue doing events in communities, and as well cancer recovery. So, I mean, anyone who's facing any type of illness, critical illness, we want them to know that 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 love is valuable and that it can also help to heal them.
Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. So people check out World Love Bank app on Google Play. So now I want to jump into our main topic, which is the adversity. Can you share your adversity with the audience?
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up in Vancouver, British Columbia, but I was originally born in Cape Town, South Africa. And my parents are Arabic, English, and German, and Malaysian, as well as African. And when I came to Canada, I didn't quite fit into any one culture. And I always felt that I was always trying to be somebody else, trying to fit into a different culture. And I think that affected me being the youngest of five and not connecting with other people as well. And then with my adversity, it just grew from getting involved with the wrong crowd in high school at some points. And then um, I had lost my brother to an addiction. And that was really a difficult time for me because, growing up from a culture where we didn't have aunts and uncles, it was just our family, to lose one of those key people, it just shattered, you know, my sense of security.
Well, I'm very sorry to hear about the loss of your brother.
Well, I mean, that's where it started, and I mean, if we want to talk about adversity, it was, as we went on from there, I ended up having a very difficult divorce, and when I had had the divorce in 2012, I went through the emotional, spiritual, financial bankruptcy that divorces can take on someone, and it was at that time um, where you had to decide. Like it was really tough. Yeah, I had two children, and you just have to decide to just grow and change and to trust the universe. And so um, I think I mean, there are so many different challenges that I face in adversity. Like as you had shared, you've had a few different moments, different stories of the adversity that you face in your life. And sometimes we just can't recognize them right away, but we just learn to grow from them. And most recently, I lost both my parents, 2019 and 2020. So, loss of people that you love is can be a real challenge in life.
I'm very sorry to hear this, and thank you so much for sharing your adversity. Let's go back to your childhood a little bit. That you mentioned a lot of adversities that went through, and one of the thing about fitting into new environment and then being multicultural race and not having way too many people around you as a child, how did it affect you? Like, were you bullied, isolated, like depressed? Like, do you recall some of the feelings?
Um, well, because I didn't quite fit in. There are different communities, right? So I happen to be in one community where there's a lot of East Asians, South Asians, I should say, and and in this particular neighborhood where I lived, I just faced racism. They just, people, adults would yell me, you know, I don't want to even say the words, but they're to do with people's religion and their culture. Not very nice words. And I remember being called that when I was in grade, um, I guess it was grade 6 and 7, and it was horrible. It just made you feel so small and unwelcome. And you look around and you wonder what's wrong with you that you're not good enough. And then I went to a different community and went to a different school, and I was always trying to fit in, right? Because I wasn't I'm South African, but people didn't really know about South Africa, and it has its own different culture, but we're so mixed. You just face this that feeling of never being good enough, and sometimes we do it to ourselves, and but when you're a child and someone oppresses you and says those things, you don't parents don't think to give you counseling or to help you out. They're just like, oh, forget about it, just move on. And it's hard when you're a child and you just always feel a little less than. So you overcompensate by getting involved in uh, outside influences that kids shouldn't. And I did that, and hung out with the wrong crowd, and some of the terrible things happened in high school that I wouldn't wish upon anyone. And you just learn to hide yourself, stop caring, and stop to put on this other persona. And I think I grew up that way, always trying to be tougher and stronger than I was. And that little child inside was always hiding and wanting to be loved, and never really quite connecting.
And then I was wondering if your brother went through a similar experience.
Um, yes, I believe so, because when we had come from South Africa, he was 13, and when we came here, you know, fitting in was difficult for him. And as I said before, he had struggled, or maybe I did not just share this, but he did struggle with addiction. So that's where you overcompensate and you get involved in things just to make yourself not care, make yourself fit in. And I believe he struggled through all of those same feelings.
And how
You have a
old
way of
was
bringing things out in people, don't you, Jerry?
one more time?
I said you have a way of bringing things out in people. I love it.
Oh, thank you. Well, how old was he when he passed?
He was 35. And one of the things that had happened was um, he had happened to call my mom's house, and I hadn't spoken to him for a while. And he had called, and he's my big brother, and I just was like, hadn't talked to him in a while. I said, I love you. He's like, no, you don't. And I'm like, no, I love you. He's like, no, you don't. And being his baby sister, I was like, I love you. I love you. I love you. And I just kept saying it. I remember saying it 15 times to him. And then finally he said, I love you, back to me. And then we hung up, and I just thought I would see him again. And I didn't get to see him again. And then 3 months later, he died. And he left behind his 3-year-old son who would never hear those words. And was that was the saddest thing, knowing, both of us being parents and it's so important to have that support for our children forever. And I just always felt like, I mean, I wish I could have heard his voice over again and hear, um, you know, have his son, my nephew, hear those words when he was having a tough time, but that wasn't the case.
I'm very sorry to hear that. I am lost of a word, and I can't even imagine that last conversation that you had. And I have son and daughter, and they're very close right now. And it's when I heard about your adversity prior to my show, I was thinking about you and your brother, and I was thinking about my son and my daughter and the bond that they have between them, and then the struggles that they already faced. Unfortunately, they are 11 and 5. And to lose that, I can't even imagine.
Oh,
And I'm very sorry.
thank you. Thank you. But it was a gift. Well, I'm not going to talk about gifts yet, but knowing that I was able to hear those words and knowing that I said those words was very powerful in my grieving process.
You see. And then you mentioned a little bit about divorce and bankruptcy, not just financially, but emotionally and everything.
Yes,
Would you tell our
emotionally.
audience a little bit about it? Would you tell our audience about why you
Sure. So I don't want to. Well, with the divorce, it was just, I think as women, we tend, not all of us, but I did. I tended to leave all the financial um, all the financial means and things like that with my ex, and he just said, just raise the kids, everything will be fine. And and by the time it was all said and done, I had to claim bankruptcy, and it was, when I grew up in well, where we were living, it was like a white picket fence, and everything looked really good on the outside. And then when you wipe the slate clean, and you're struggling, and we got to the point where I had nothing. It was about, whether or not I was going to be able to put food on the plates for my kids. And I remember, you know, having to, really drop the whole ego, and like, I was cleaning houses. I would work 3 jobs just to make sure that I could get what my kids needed. I remember having to apply for all the different, the different communities have different support networks so that the kids could still play their sports. And I just had to hold my head up high and take the kids to school, and you don't really share it with other people, but yeah, it was hard. It was really hard, and there was a point where it was like, what is this all for? But when you look at your children and you see how much love it's such unconditional love that they have, and what you have for them, it's just that you would do anything for them, and you just find the strength and you do it. And when it came to spiritually, I just had to turn it over, because I always knew that there was like a higher power. My father's Muslim, my mother was Christian, and they always said to me, you know what, you follow the 10 commandments, you're going to be okay. You just treat people right, and there's always going to be, right from wrong, and you do the next right thing. And there were times where Like instead of, you know, asking for material things, it was just, you know what, like just show me the next right thing to do. And it just took so much to not ask, but just to be present. And when I started to do that, um, things changed in my life. And from going where where you feel like you're bankrupt spiritually, it's like you realize that it's a matter of how you look at things. It's always there. It's always there if you know, open yourself up. And so I found that I was able to gain so much more self awareness and so much more strength when I turned it over, and I basically surrendered to like a universal love and a universal belief that everything is going to be okay, and that we all have struggles. But if you look for the lessons and you try your best to do the next right thing, it'll always work out.
So just to share it with you, I divorced twice, and then I have small children, and my
Mhm.
kids were 3 and 8 at the time when I became a single mom, and it has been very challenging. I would say I went through all this child sex abuse, domestic violence, homelessness, bullying, but being a single mom is one of the toughest thing. You don't realize how many of us, a single mom or single dad, that are going through this. And one of the challenge, I think, maybe you can agree with me, is we have no break,
Mhm.
absolutely zero. And we tend to forget about self-care and self-love in the process, and then we just like have absolutely no place to break down. And it's a cycle, and you know, there is actually no break. And that's, I think, I found that to be the hardest thing. You cannot just turn and check out and then okay, bye guys. You can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would say surviving through similar thing, especially the divorce part and the financial difficulties. My car got repossessed after the divorce, and then I had so much debt. My community rallied around me. Some of my friends rented a theater the first Christmas after the divorce, after I became single mom, and they raised
Mhm.
over $3,000 in one night, and then gave the check and lots of presents to my children. And that was 2019. But I worked really hard. And last year, between me and my children, we were able to sponsor three children's Christmas wish on wishing tree, and then we were able to buy a present for three children. So we were all proud, very proud. So, Hibby, I would like to switch the question to the tools. You a little bit mentioned about shifting your mindset, but I like this part of my show a lot because every guest who came so far has so many modality that they tried, but they shared the tools that they used to overcome adversity, and all of my guests were very different and unique. I know you've tried different things to overcome the adversity, but what was the things that you used that you thought it was the best, worked?
Um, w- for myself, it was turning things over to a higher power, and really learning to be present. And I think for me, I believe that there's like a spiritual universe out there. So I did a lot. So I did a lot of the listening to the Wayne Dyers on YouTube, and listening to all these different mindset. I wouldn't say coaches, but um, videos just to listen and get the vibrations and things like that. And I remember surrendering. I remember asking the universe, just like, use me. And I put up my hands, and it was like I had met all these people, and I started really looking up and being present. And I said, you know, please let me be of service. And I remember one of these moments where I was going for a job interview, and I hadn't, it was for one job. It was for real estate. And I had the experience in the past. It was just to be like a property manager. And I'd said, please don't let anything distract me from my spiritual growth. And I put up my hands. I heard from someone else, a Mason, a Freemason. He said, when you reach out and you pray, you put your hands up and you just make yourself available. And so I said that. And I went for this job interview, and the gentleman interviewed me, and he said, I would hire you for this position. However, I own a spiritual company. And how would you like to be my marketing director for the spiritual company? And I was like, wow, fantastic. And that allowed me to enjoy all these different modalities. And I learned how to open myself up to more, to like cacao and to different types of healing modalities. And so my gift was to learn to trust that the universe is always going to answer if you ask, and to kind of step aside and try to get out of my own way. And I have not just experienced that one time, I experienced it all the time. Another time I was not working, and I had met someone 3 months before, and I was like, just, let me be of service to someone else. And I got a call saying, would you please go to El Salvador and be my eyes and ears. They were sponsoring a nonprofit in LA that helped out orphanages. And all of a sudden, I was allowed to go and be of service there. And I didn't have a job. I was available at that point. My children were going back and forth between me and their dad. And I was there, and I came back, and all of a sudden my eyes were able to be like, now there's so many more opportunities. So it's about keeping your eyes and ears open, and looking for lessons and learning to change and grow and being of service to others.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. That's very, very valuable. And then surrendering yourself to the universe is very courageous. I don't think, I don't think many people understand what that means. In a way that when you have traumatic experiences that you basically lost control, you got violated. In your case, you got discriminated, and then your self-esteem was destroyed, and you crave for that love and attention and stability to fill the void. So you kind of become a little bit controlling of your day, your time, and then to surrender yourself and then let it go, and then to trust in something else, whether it's religion or universe or spirituality or anything. That is courage, and that takes bravery, because first of all you have to recognize it, but second of all you have fear what was going to happen. And to surrender, I wrote a song called Surrender last year, and it's really hard to let it go sometimes of what you went through. But once you learn to surrender and let it go, I experienced that shift as well.
That's amazing, because I think that sometimes we tend to want to hold on to it, because as a survivor of abuse or a survivor of discrimination and other relationship abuse or alcohol recovery, it's always about learning to grow. And sometimes you just have to accept the past and let it go. Not that And and like I said, look up, and when you feel like where you are today and the gifts you have for everybody to hold a book and coaching and this podcast, all these things you said, that's not coaching but speaking. I mean, you would never be able to share and help others except for the fact that you were able to go through it and survive, and now you're going to be able to thrive because of it. You're going to be able to grow and help others. It's like you become a beacon of light for others, and that's what we all do if we're not afraid to say, I have had challenges, I've gone through these terrible things, but I know I'll get through it. I know I'll grow, and whatever you focus on and look, there's always going to be a solution. There's always going to be an answer, and sometimes I don't even know what the answer is. I just have to get out of my own way.
Yes, I really appreciate this conversation, Hibby. And can you please tell our audience how World Love Bank maybe came out of your adversity?
Absolutely. So because of the situation I had with my brother, and because I got to say I love you to him so many times, I also recognized how difficult it was for him to accept that somebody loved him. For me to have to say it over and over and over again until finally it was that one time, that one voice, and the way I said it, that he was like, okay, I'm loved. And he said, I love you back. That was one of the reasons, because I wanted to make sure that anyone anywhere could access the words I love you. And that's how the global joint account works in the World Love Bank. But then the fact that his son, who was 3 at the time, would never hear those words, I also wanted to make sure that people had one safe place to store and save their words, I love you, and how to get through a bad day, or like bedtime stories, whatever it is that they want to share for their children. Because life is short, life is temporary. We never know. We could walk out and get hit by a car, unfortunately. We've had COVID. My father died of brain and lung cancer in 2019, and my mother in 2020 of loneliness, because she was stuck in a home when she had no access to anyone. We could only wave to her through the window, and she just felt so alone that she ended up passing. And that's why I created a bank, so that you would be able to, on purpose, intentionally save those memories and messages. Because when somebody passes, or you're not looking through your phone or your computer, like, where is that message or that words of I love you? You don't know where to find them. But the bank, the World Love Bank, makes it intentional that you would want to say those words. Like, my mom had these amazing stories. She grew up in District 6 in South Africa, and she used to tell us these funny stories. So I knew I was building this, so I recorded them in advance so that I would have them for my kids. And my son, who's 15, I've got 2, he said to me, Mom, please read me my bedtime stories and save them in the bank, because I know that I want them for my kids, so that he could have me telling those bedtime stories to his kids. So the World Love Bank is there for everyone to be able to, one, if you don't hear the words I love you, you can come to the bank and you can hear it. Unconditional. It's anonymous, so no one's being judged by how they look, culturally or anywhere else, because it's anonymous. You just hear the audio from the audio bank. But then you also have your safe place to store it. And those are all private. And I think, love is so valuable. It is so valuable, and it's priceless. And if something were to happen, you would pay anything to just hear that voice one more time. And I think it's so important that we value love, because that was the one thing, is that making the intangible tangible. It has to be worth saving. And that's why it's in a bank.
It's really inspiring. I like the word that you say, intangible to tangible.
Yeah.
Um, I just want to share a quick story with you and with our audience about tangible outcome and
Hmm.
tangible, measurable outcome. So I ran nonprofit for 12 years, teaching music to juvenile offenders in the detention program. I was a president and founder. I started when I was 26 years old. So along the way, I learned about grant writing and academic side of research, hard data, anecdotal data. And they use this word that you just said, tangible. It's tangible, measurable outcome. So what it is intangible, like say you play piano and you are able to play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, and then we call it tangible because it's measurable and its outcome. And then the research shows this outcome build self-esteem and then resilience and lower recidivism. So I just wanted to share it with you. So I think Hibby is I'm not sure what happened, the internet connection. So we'll see if she's able to come back to live with us. There you go. We lost you a second, but I think you're back. Can you hear me?
Sorry, I just missed the last part because I think we had technical difficulty.
No problem. So, Hebe, let's move on to the last part of the question, which is a gift.
I can
So,
hear
what,
you. I can't see you, but I can hear you. Yeah,
oh,
yes.
no,
So
I
we
can hear
talked
you.
about intangible, and you were explaining it.
Yes. Can you hear me? So, I think she's still having a little bit difficulty on internet connection. Oh, here you go. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, I'm sorry. So,
No, no, could be.
this is a live
I
interview.
want to hear the story. I want to hear the story. I have it.
Oh, no, no. So I was basically saying that when I was running nonprofit and teaching music to juvenile offenders, we use this
Hmm.
word tangible, measurable outcome. When we teach piano, say kids can play Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, and they can see it, they can hear it, and it's an outcome. And then the research shows the tangible, measurable outcome build self-esteem, self-confidence, sense of ownership, and that would build resilience. Therefore, we can lower the recidivism, so they don't come back to the detention program when they get
Hmm.
released. So that was the entire goal. So the reason why I mentioned this was you use the word intangible to tangible, because I love you can be like just said, but now your app it's tangible. You can see it's measurable and it's an outcome that you can see it in right there. And it's very effective and inspirational. And I like the idea that people can access to these stories or information and love from all over the places that especially during and after the pandemic of this loneliness, people getting bullied and people getting abused. I think more than ever, self love, self care are talked about. Mental health is getting more talked about, which is great. I just
Hmm.
recently wrote an article about Student Alliance on Mental Health uh, group, a club that started in the local high school, and how the founder of the club, high school student, did not think that maybe it would attract a member, but now it's like 40 members. And it's universal language that we don't talk about, and there's a stigma. And that's part of the reason I wanted to start this show. I'm grateful to have this conversation from all over the world. I had a guest from Germany, like Scotland. I have guests coming from Denmark, and then from all over the place. Now Canada. And more I talked about adversity and tools. I feel it's universal language. However, there were not so much aid, especially our generation. When we were growing up, our parents weren't aware of how to heal the mental health, how to deal with mental health. But instead, they said, oh, just forget about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that would scar, we call it emotional injury. So 51A is a DCF term that when kids are verbally abused, it creates emotional injury, just like a scar. How do you
Okay.
heal that? And then we don't talk about it, even as a parent, as a educator. It's getting more and more talked about, but I wish when you were growing up, when your brother was growing up, when I was growing up, I wish these tools and the conversation were available to us.
Oh, completely. We don't have, now we just have to do the best we can to share that with our children and give them those tools, right? Because they are the next generation of parents. And there's always that saying that if you don't parent on purpose, you'll parent by default. So have you heard that? I used to have a parenting company years ago, and we taught parents the natural stages children went through. And what happens is if we don't recognize and like have a parenting plan on how to address situations with our kids, keep communicating with them openly, we might naturally by default repeat what our parents did, not to the extent of abuse, but perhaps just, you know, negative commentary. Things, you ever hear people say, oh, my mom used to say that, and now I'm repeating it back to my children, right? So one of the things I do with my kids is every day, I always make sure that we eat together at the end of the day and we talk. And then we have one of these Hazelton books, and it's like, every day it has, it has a spiritual kind of, um, lesson and like an affirmation, and we just read it. We pass the book around every day. It'll be a different person gets to read it, and it just keeps us talking about it. And because I have two boys, I talk to them about um, sexuality and the body science when they were young, so it wasn't offensive, and it wasn't like it would not that sexuality is offensive, but like or talking about sex is not offensive. It's sexual education, but I wanted to be the first one to talk about it, so we called it body science, and that's what we did. So that my boys, they're 16 and 20 or 15 and 20, they could talk to me about anything. They're comfortable, being respectful to women and the the different stages that we grow through from teenagers up, because those are now going to be their friends, their girlfriends, perhaps their wives, um, and they understand that more because we're always keeping open communication. So if we don't if we don't parent on purpose, we can parent by default by doing something that our parents did in behaviors. So that's a good way to change up and and help grow a better community of people.
Thank you for sharing that. So let's ask you about the last question, which is a gift that came from the adversity. So what would you say the gift that came from your adversity?
Okay. Well, I wanted to share, as we said, and I had shared that there's many different adversities we go through in life. So I had mentioned that my father died in 2019 of lung cancer and brain cancer. That my mom died in 2020. My mom passed away on my birthday in 2020. And that was when I started working on the Love Bank. And I had already started saving messages. Um, and what I had to do was I had to decide on whether I was going to ever enjoy a birthday again. And so I said, if the universe could open up heaven's gates on my birthday to welcome my mom, then it's a very, very special day. And I chose that. And so the gift I find with adversity is no matter what I go through, I have a choice in how I'm going to frame it because it's my life and I can look for a lesson and I can make a difference. And so because of that, I built the World Love Bank even more quickly because of that. So all these adversities I've went through, it's because I know how much I love this world. And I know that my love is no better than anyone else's, but I need everybody to collaborate and bring it together. And I just wanted to have a safe place for everybody to be able to share that. And that's my gift. The gift from adversity to the world. And I think that it was a gift because no matter what, I know that I can get it through anything because I'm willing to be of service to others, and that's through love.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your story today, Hibby. It's been a pleasure talking to you. And then people, please check out World Love Bank app on Google Play
And
or
on the App Store,
App Store too.
yes, both.
Oh, great, wonderful. I would love to download it. And I appreciate you for sharing your story, but not only that, creating this app from your adversity and your mission and then your kindness to spread this love and save.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I feel like I'm blessed to have spent this time with you, and I know that we will stay connected because I feel your heart, and I know this is such a gift. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Yumi. You're so kind. And I just want to give you one last word to our audience. Do you have any message to our audience?
I love you.
Perfect. Well, thank you again, and thank you to our audience for tuning into A Gift from Adversity. This was episode 27, and I am booked all the way to May, and I'm so appreciative for all the guests who are willing to share their adversity tools and then a gift. See you next time.